Tansei, bonjour, Anin, Dave McLeod, Indigenous, and welcome. We are coming to you from beautiful Treaty 1 territory. Specifically, we're in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Safe at Home brings you Community Connect, and we're coming to you from the Broadway Neighborhood Center. In this episode, we get to meet Burnstick. Burnstick is a Winnipeg folk roots duo. They are husband and wife. Jason is a Plains-Cree guitarist. Nadia is a Francophone-Métis singer-songwriter. Their voices, their language, their stories blend together to create a beautiful genre of music. And we're so thrilled to have you here. Thank you so much for taking the time to share with us today.
Thanks for having us.
I want to ask you, a lot of artists within the community are dealing with a lot through this pandemic. I mean, usually you're interacting with audiences, you're touring, you're working with other artists as well in the studio. What's this been like for you, this period?
Well, our last gig was just in New Orleans, like last January, before like everything. And we had so much fun up there. I was like, so much fun. And we're just getting our album going and things were happening. We had shows booked and we're just ready to rock. And and then so, you know, it turned into something else, and that's fine, you know, but I'd rather be out on the road. But for myself, I've been doing a lot of recording at home and just getting my chops up and writing a lot for film these days as well. And writing new music.
Interestingly, a lot of gigs regardless, like a lot of the at-home recording kind of gigs we weren't expecting, but because we were supposed to be part of a bunch of festivals and then last summer. So a lot of that, so that's different, very different. I don't love it because we love having the audience, we love interacting with the audience, so that's been difficult to not have that, which I'm sure all the artists would say that. But you know, we spend way more time with our son, which I am thrilled about. So there's that.
Well, if we go back in time a little bit, I'm curious to know how you met, and because, as mentioned earlier, your voices meld together so well. But how did you both connect?
Well, we met in the Kîyânaw, and actually it was that day I lost my voice. I had a vocal cord granuloma, and so I actually had lost it, and I sounded like an old man, like, hello, I am my name is Jason. And that's how I think she thought I talked, and I was like my voice. But and I was working on another children's album at that time, and she helped me finish that one. And it was my voice for me, kind of came in.
And who made the first, like, did you talk to Nadia, or did Nadia
I totally did. I tried, and she just shut me down. Like over and over again.
Do you remember it that way? Is that how
I do. I mean, but not like that. It was just because I was working.
It was like that.
We were up north. I was working on Indigenous Day Live. He was an artist on that show. That's how we met. So I was really busy. So I wasn't like turning you down. I was just super busy. And then we met again about a month later. Realized we lived about a few blocks away from each other in Winnipeg. And then at that point, that's sort of when we started.
Well, I invited her over, and she shut me down again.
I did. I said no, and then I called you back and said I'd come over.
The next day, she just came over and invited herself, and she just never left.
Well, congratulations to you for working through all of that.
Yeah.
I
hung in there.
That sounds like it'll be a first chapter. You know.
Chapter 1. Hang in there. That's the lesson. Stay tough.
But musically, you both come from different kind of backgrounds in a way, similar but different in terms of instrumentation. You're both vocalists, incredible vocalists. But how did it come together in terms of you, musically when you first sat together? Because I know, Nadia, you predominantly played piano, keyboards, and then you made a stretch into playing guitar as well. But how did that all come together?
Wow. Yeah, we our first actually sitting down and hanging out with each other was actually just playing music.
Yeah.
That was our first, like, our dates, was just sitting down and playing music together. It was fun.
So it was, yeah, I feel like we wrote a song on the first date.
Yeah. Yeah, we did.
And then we kind of always, and then, yeah, you were saying you didn't have a voice and you were working on another album.
Yeah.
And that's when I started singing and helping out on that. And so at that point, I hadn't even heard him sing other than, recordings and stuff.
Yeah.
And then it started, and then when you did get your voice back,
Which
it
was
was
awesome.
so easy. By that point, we knew each other's music, and then we just kind of started
It
singing
was so
together.
awesome because my voice, like the day when I came back, it dropped like probably a couple octaves down or something.
After
So-
your surgery.
After
He had
my surgery, so
both
when they
of those.
removed the granuloma, and so it was like really low, and low to the point where I actually could feel it in my chest when I talked,
Good feeling.
and I loved it. I was
Yeah.
like, I hope this stays like that, because I was like, yeah.
Did you call Nadia on the phone just so you can?
I said hello.
You
No, I just walked in. I said, no. She came over, and I don't know what it was, but I said hello. I was like, hello. It was just like really.
It was very low.
Yeah, I was
it
like,
was
whoa.
very nice.
So we skip ahead. So you wrote a song very early in your relationship, and in 2015 you released a children's album, and this is an award-winning album, Dream Big, Little One. And the nuance of this is lullabies, but you're combining cultures and languages. We have French, Cree, and English. So what was that experience like? I mean, it's interesting, of all the genres you can come out with, it's like, we're going to do a children's album. Like, what's the story with that?
I'd started with my niece to write songs with her whenever we had family gatherings, and it was always, children's songs. And we were never children's entertainers, really. But I had these songs, and I wanted to record them for her, or for my nieces and nephews, because they were her songs. And it just started at that point where, he was helping me record them, and then we had a few of them, and I'm like, let's just make this an album. They sound beautiful, and at that point, I was like, this is better than just to give to her. People need to hear these songs. I thought they were really beautiful, and then, so we had a handful of them, and we just decided to write other ones, and Jason had written a song in Cree. It was an upbeat song in Cree, and we actually made a lullaby version out of it. And so we just decided, this is really cool. There's some French songs and English songs and Cree, and it just ended up being sort of this side project that became a big project that we just loved. So.
And I think, I'd be guessing, but the melding of your voices is really a nuance needed when you're doing a lullaby album. So what better way to come together than to work on where you're putting your voices together in that way? Jason, you wrote some lyrics in Cree, but you had to learn Cree. I understand as a young man, you were apprehended by Child Family Services. You attended residential school, and how did that affect in terms of identity and language?
Oh man, that's a big question. I'll try to make it quick. I think my hard drive is the earlier years of that time, and it created pretty angry little kid who, that's my experience as growing into an adult and learning how to take responsibility for myself as I go on. But my hard drive still very much is rooted in that anger and missing those things. So I spent some time in first foster home, and then I was a year in a boarding school called the Atonement Home in Edmonton, and then I went to another foster home again. So I won't get into the experience of those things, but what they do to a kid, it's like no kid should have to go through that. So I don't know, and it kind of coming out of that, coming back home with my parents, and my mom spoke fluent Cree. And so I learned some from her, not a lot. I wish I learned more. But I would call her every day, over the years when she was around, and I would talk to her when I was going to pick up my son from daycare and say, what is the word for this, or how do you say this? And so it's a constant learning thing. So now I'm still kind of reaching out in that way with different people in my life, and even on my own. So it's one of those things where the more you learn and put back into your hard drive, the better you kind of feel.
Yeah.
It's reprogramming the stuff that's there,
Is it filling a space in you that I need to learn language because, like you say, that hard drive is missing a part of you?
Yeah,
is that?
for sure.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because my son came into the world, and he drums and he loves singing songs and he does this thing, and more so than I ever have. But he's kind of bringing it back to me in an odd way. And he started drumming at my mother's funeral, and he hasn't stopped. And it's just beautiful, and he's so into it. And when he does it, I have to like join him or stop and watch him. So it's healing in that way too. And I think that's, it's not passing on my garbage onto him and just kind of, leaving it over here and being with him in those moments, you know what I mean, and celebrating that stuff. So I want his experience to be very, very different from mine.
Beautiful. And your son's name's Kîyânaw?
Kîyânaw, yeah.
Nadia, what's important for you is to make sure that your son learns and moves forward in terms of, Jason's experience and your experience?
I just want him to have such a positive life. Like I like the fact that he drums and he feels no negativity at all attached to anything that he does that's traditional, whether it be Cree or Métis. He knows none of that, and not that I don't want him to know the history, but I don't want him to feel like that is his legacy. Like I want him to have such a positive life. So it's when I see him drumming and just being so happy in that or dancing, like that's what I want for him. Like I want that life for him, and I want him to have a privileged life. But I also want him to recognize that privilege.
He sat down at the powwow drum for his first time at powwow night here in Winnipeg, and for like an hour and a half straight. Wow. And he wouldn't.
And he was little.
He was a year and a half years
still little,
old.
but
yeah, he's 3 now, but it was like a year and a half, and he just sat there for the whole hour, like an hour and a half, wouldn't stop straight. But that's how he is.
So he's definitely connected to music, at such a young age, and that's something you never experienced.
No, that came, I think, when I was probably around 10 or 11. My older brother picked up guitar, and it was just like,
wow.
And that was it. I was like hooked.
Amazing, and I know your son is a light in the room. He's just got such positive energy. So, congratulations. Yeah. That's wonderful.
He's an incredible little guy.
So let's skip ahead to the next album. So you released the children's album, and then an album released Kîyânaw.
Kîyânaw, sorry.
Kîyânaw.
Now I'm getting both the names mixed up, just like you did earlier.
Yeah, Kîyânaw. and
Kîyânaw, yeah.
What was released a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And now you went from children's album to a whole different sound.
Yeah.
And tell us about that process.
Well, like Nadia said, we're not children's singers. We just kind of almost fell into it and started doing these projects.
Was there a point where you almost were children's singers? It's like,
no, we actually had to put our foot down and say, no, we're not.
We actually were asked to do some shows, because we had won awards with our album, and they were like, let's do shows. And like, all we know are lullabies. We cannot entertain your children.
Yeah.
It did not work. We can't do it. So.
But so we decided to call the album Kîyânaw. And, when we named Kîyânaw, I told my mom what his name was, and she was like, his name is us, like it's Kîyânaw. So that's how she said it. And so we took that, and that's what we called our album. Kîyânaw was us, and it was like, okay, that is cool.
And what is your son's name, Trans?
Kîyânaw.
Kîyânaw. Okay.
Yeah, that's Hawaiian. It's like, we're not Hawaiian at all. So.
I just like the name.
We just like the name.
But now it has a better meaning even.
Yeah.
So in this album, thematically, I mean, it's got a rock, kind of a rock roots folk vibe, and it's and that's the whole thing with the music industry. It's like you got to put a label on your album, but your the music you do doesn't seem to fit with exactly in any of those categories. So the songs you write, how do you go about writing your songs? Because you're both songwriters, you're both musicians, you both play different instruments. So
we both have different approaches, really.
Yeah.
I like sort of starting with like a vocal melody, a melody that'll drive the melody of my lyrics. I like writing sort of almost not all of it, but a lot of it. Then bringing it to, if I think it's a song that it's going to be a Burnstick song, then bringing it to Jason and saying like, what do you think of this? And then he'll add have his input in, mostly in the music, some lyrics too. That's how I write, but you have a completely different way of writing.
Yeah, I have a few different ways, but one of them for this one was starting with rhythm and beat. So like drum loops and things that like inspired me, moved me, and got me playing in a certain way. Like with the song Pay No Mind, like there's a picking pattern in there that I do that I don't do on any other song and I haven't done before. And it's almost sounds similar to what I'm doing in other things, but it's not. It's really not. When you really listen to it, it's like something else. But it was just the rhythm of that song, the way it was moving, even the strumming in that song, like, you know, that's something that came from years ago from the Latin influence.
And you bring up such an important point with the rhythms, because every song, the music you release always has that sense of rhythm to it, or a building process throughout the song. It's pretty prominent. You play an interesting brand of guitar. Can you tell us about your?
Yeah, that's the Weissenborn. I own a number of original Weissenborns that come from the 20s back in the day.
And these sit on your lap.
They sit on your lap. They're all hollow up to about the neck, and you play them with a slide. They made from a guy. His name was Herman Weissenborn. In the late teens or late 20s, he was making them, and I think he passed away in the 30s. But some of them still around today. I think he made about 5,000 of them, it was estimated, and there's a handful of them around. And yeah, I've been lucky enough to find some really decent ones and put them to use. But yeah, I love those. I've heard of that instrument when I was like, I think 21, 22, and I played a bit of lap slide that time, but I really dug in. And at that time I was like considering going to probably Colombia or Spain and starting to learn like flamenco guitar and start to expand in that area. But when I heard the lap slide, and that was it. Like the Weissenborn, that was it. I just switched gears completely. And
I know Cirque Soleil was interested in having you as a musician at one point.
Yeah. I was gonna do that, thinking and then I started kind of putting my piece together for them, and then I was kind of going through the application, and it just didn't quite feel right. And I sat down and decided that, you know what, I can't take Kîyânaw away from his family here, and I can't do that to him. I don't want to do that to him, and it just didn't feel right. And so I made the decision, okay, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to do this, and I'm not going to try.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to let it go. And then things happened, right, in the world, and it's like, so it was kind of meant to be anyway, and it's fine by me. It's all good.
Well, and as it should be. I mean, and you've gotten such a great reputation playing the instrument as well. I mean, and people are in wonder when they see you play, especially when you're together performing. What's that like, being a husband and wife duo, being on the road, touring, doing shows? Does it make it easier, or is there challenges around it? I'm trying
being
to
on
imagine.
the road right now is being in our living room and our bedroom, but yeah, no, we're having fun.
Being on the road's the best.
Yeah, I miss that. Like,
And you have such a great banter on stage together.
yeah.
Like
Our shows I love doing I love performing together. That's my favorite thing. Like when we get to be on stage together, travel together, do all of that. I really do miss that.
Me too.
Right now. Yeah, for sure.
In the
It's my
biggest
favorite.
way.
Well, we're so thrilled you're here to share some background of Burnstick. You're going to be performing a song for us, "Some Kind of Hell." What can you tell us about this song?
Yeah, I was approached by Amplify a couple years back to write a song and to shoot a video for it with them, and they kind of wanted a concept of like an elder and a man's position in the world, and as a First Nations person, and I started thinking about it, and one of the images that came to mind was a First Nations elder. If from way back in the day were to come shoot forward to here to now, like time travel here, what would he say? What would he see? And what would he have to think about? What have we done to the world and where we are now with everything? And the phrase "some kind of hell" kind of came up, but that was actually the phrase "some kind of hell" came up when I was in the hospital, like going through all this other garbage. And it was at night, and it was really like it was hell at night what I was going through. And so that's what I was thinking about. I was like thinking about that too. But it kind of switched over to kind of thinking about more of the environment, the people, some of the social justice issues, and what are we doing, So like if we don't keep trying,
It's almost
keep
like
working.
a call to action. Like we need to change some of the things that we do and make things better. It's difficult to do, but.
Yeah, and the last line is like, then the rains come down over some kind of hell, right? So it's just like an image of like, okay, poetic image.
All right. Well. Thank you for being here. And this is Burnstick with "Some Kind of Hell."
there's no light can save you from yourself. We know better now, now you need to go. When oh my will is gone. When oh my days are done. No light shed can cover all you've told. Now there's no life, your luck has all run cold. Oh my will is gone. Oh my days are done. Then the rains come down over some kind of hell. Then the rains come down over some kind of hell. Raise my hands to all who gave the most. I prayed from the cries of a child to their last goal. Oh my will is gone. Oh my days are done. Then the rains come down over some kind of hell. Then the rains come down over some kind of hell. Then the rains come down